Today I'm looking at a Renault Clio and this one won't start, so I'll show you what I've done to get it going. Go over it in a bit more detail, but there's a wire up here, this yellow one, that gets power when you put the ignition on, but there's no communication to the engine ECU, so what I've done is found that there's no power going to it, but this pink and black wire down here, that should have power. And then when you put the ignition on, it's grounded out by the engine ECU. So that wire comes from the fuse box, and the ECU grounds it out, and then it'll switch one of the relays on. And when the relay's on, it then powers up another part of the same ECU. But it's not doing that, so there's no comm. So what I've done is taken it, first of all, with a test light. And when I used a test light, I was able to get this to start by going into this pink and black wire. But to make it so that the owner could use it without using a test light, because the fault must be in the ECU, because from the wiring all the way back, it's okay. The wiring, because I'm shorting it out with a test light at the ECU, so the wiring, the relay, everything this way must be okay, because as soon as I do that, you can start the car. So what I've done, I've gone to this other wire, this yellow and black, on this pin, on the black plug, and I'll show you on a wiring diagram so you can see what I've done better. Because this one, when you put the ignition on, does get alive, and I've used that to switch on a relay. So the control side is coming through this, ignition on, it gets power, and it's grounded out over here. And then the load side, it's not to power a big load in this case, it's just to put an earth or a ground to that pink and black wire down there, and that one needs to be grounded out. And then that will switch on a relay, and the relay will then power up the rest of the ECU. So that's it all connected. I'm going to wrap it up neater, but I just want to show you that it works. Before it wouldn't crank. Another thing is this flashing LED here. When you put the ignition on, it would stay on like that. Now it is going out. I know I've got other faults to take care of, but it starts. And that's the main thing. I'll look at the ABS fault in a second, but that starts. Here's my notes that I got the wiring diagram. I've got Hello Gutman from Diagnostic Connections, and it was only like 600 and something pounds for the year. It's quite good. I'll show you a few things that's useful about it. The color-coded wiring diagram that shows you everything, and instead of just parts of it, it includes the other stuff that you need to know. Because I was using another wiring diagram, but it didn't show me everything that I want to know. I want to know what all the wires are doing. And I like the way, here was the problem that we had. No communication. So here we can see, when you see one of these sort of like, looks like a figure of 8, usually that's going around a CAN-bus wire. So those two are CAN-bus, but if you look it up, it actually tells you what they are. Here, got the component test values as well. So we know what they should be and what it looks like. So if you get them both up, you get a diagram of what it is, and you can look at what it should be. So if you go to the CAN-bus, I've highlighted the ones that I thought were relevant, and it tells you what you should expect to see. That passed the test. I got that with the Pico connected, and no matter if it was a Handtech, if you've got a CAN-bus waveform, that's all I was looking for, and I did. The grounds are over here. You see they're all going down to 31. So that's a ground. I tested them on the car. All these could light a light bulb. You know, when I connected a light bulb from here with this disconnected, and I could put a front probing pin in there, and I could connect it to a light bulb, and the other side of the light bulb goes to the battery positive. They all lit. So I knew the wires were okay on the ground side. So I'm running out of things here. Why is there no comms to the engine ECU? So then it's looking for the powers. all these bits are not powers in, they're all sensors or actuators. Looking at the powers coming in, we're going back to the fuse box here. These go off to something else, so we're not worried about that. This one here is passing on, that's going right down to the glow plug relay. Not worried about that right now, and that wire is going down to the glow plug relay. Not worrying about that just now, because we want to know why the engine ECU's got no comms, and we know CAN bus was okay, the grounds are okay, but when I came to this one, see this relay that's half on one page and half on another, got power at the fuse, and then the fuse goes through the control side of the relay. See it's drawn in there. It's a bit of a shame that it's on the center of this join of paper, but control side of the relay and comes out there. This is at the fuse box, and then it goes to the engine ECU right here. I've got some of my own notes on this paper from before, but I just highlighted quickly with this highlighter so I could see it quick when I was working on the car. This pin here is the control pin, which is F1, if I remember right. F1. So because it's a control pin, we've got battery voltage coming through the relay all the way to the engine ECU. It's coming right through the windings in the coil all the way to the engine ECU. And that was there, but the engine ECU, when you put the ignition on, should ground this wire out. It has to be the ground side of that, because the other side's got a fuse on it, so this has to ground it out, and the engine ECU didn't do that. So if I put it here where my arrow is, that's where I connected a test light. It didn't light up the test light, but I had the test light connected to a ground, and I touched a back probing pin there, and when I did, everything clicked. You heard things working around the engine actuators and throttle bodies buzzing away and stuff like that, so I knew then it was maybe worth trying it, and when I tried it, the car started. So that's the problem. The engine ECU is not grounding this wire. When it does ground the wire, it switches on this relay and powers up this green wire here going to the engine ECU, and this white wire that goes into the ECU as well. So I could check what these should do, and they should just, those wires should give the engine ECU power. So it's the engine ECU that activates or grounds out the relay to give the other parts of the engine ECU power. So it was this one wire here wasn't grounding out. Now the grounds out of the ECU were good, so it wasn't a fault that it didn't have a good ground. So what did I do? I just decided if I could give that a ground with a test light, well, we can't really drive it around like that, so I'll come up with a plan. And then I found this other wire here, this wire. That's on a different relay. Had to test that one, and this one here that goes to pin D1. Where's that one? That's down here. So it shows you on here that it's CD1. So if we look at the plug, this is C, the black plug. So if I go to C and then go to D1, it's right here. So that wire, I put a wire in there because that one is power with the ignition on. Where's it gone? There. That's power with the ignition on and no power when the ignition's off. So I thought what I could do is use that to control a relay. So if I had that going to ground, control side of a relay, then I know that this bit's working okay. Power's on with the key, power's off when the key's off. So then I was like, well, I could use that, but instead of having a relay with the load side powering a big load, I could just have the relay to pass the ground onto this pin, which is right here, which is on the grey pin, and it's F1, and that is this wake up one here, F1, right there. That's not a wake up, it's the relay control to power up the engine ECU. The ECU itself is supposed to switch it on. I'm thinking it must get a message somehow through the canvas, because I can't see anything else on the diagram that would show that it gets switched on. So the canvas or something inside isn't switching it on. So all I need to do is ground that out. So what I've done then is taken this wire here, and then that one will have that drawn like that. So that's going to there, to that pin, and then this side of it could go to the same ground as that. So when this pin here is working with the ignition on, that gets power, and that power then comes over to the relay that I've put in, and it energizes the relay, energizes that, and then that will close the load side of the relay, which then passes on from the ground through to pin F1. So if you've got any troubles, that's what I did to get it going. There we go. Right, this is it finished, all built up. You don't really see what I've done now, so there's the ground wires, one for the load side, which is not really a load, it's just to ground out because the ECU is not doing it, so it grounds out the wire at the ECU that goes to the relay and switches on the rest of the ECU. And there's the little relay that I've put in to do the job. And yeah, you don't see it, but it works. Is it complete? I'll just show you that it works. And this LED goes out when it works. Still got the clock to set and stuff like that, but it's running, that's the main thing. And everything works. It's not ideal for some people, don't like those sort of repairs, but I think when you've got a car that the cost of the ECU and you weigh up, can you keep the car going? It still is using the key for the immobilizer. I've not done anything to stop that, it's just that the ECU wasn't shorting out or grounding out the wire that goes to the relay in the fuse box, so we've done it for it. So hopefully it's helpful to somebody. Thanks for watching.